2-speed, promotion, second gear. Second gear. Corporate Nitro.
Welcome back to Corporate Nitro. We've got a HOBAO
HYPER 7 PCR. It's got more air leaks than an ocean gate submarine.
Corporate Nitro with another nighttime vintage Nitro road trip. We got a Hyper 7 Paul Coleman Racing Edition. The PCR has got a lot of upgrades over a standard Hyper 7. Lots of graphite, very thick shock towers, quad brakes, a 2-speed transmission, which probably is not standard, but I'm not going to say no. A beautiful Hyper21 engine with pull start. Probably some more upgrades, maybe a Torsen diff here and there, I'm not sure. We've got the purple anodized supports in the wing stay. We've got the pivot ball suspension. The shocks look like they're from a Hongnor LX. We've got universals in the front. We've got universals in the rear. Another thick shock tower in the back there. Yeah. A vintage FM radio. HOBAO. Yep. Maybe that's a little green failsafe I can see in there. We've got a 6 kilo steering servo, a 3 kilo throttle brake servo. I'm going to throw those out or use them for something else. There's a small dent in the pipe there. I'm not going to worry about that. That coupler is still in good condition, but as we know, they're not the best for pipes. When you're using the quad brakes, you have to use the small 32mm purple flywheel, so that I can tell that's original. If you go to a standard 35mm flywheel, it actually rubs on the rear brake of the quad brakes. I know that for a fact. Same as on my Hyper 7 Pro R. These tyres do not look original. They look a little bit too aggressive, but the wheels are original HOBAO. So maybe they are, maybe they aren't. The bumper looks pretty good, and the bottom of the chassis looks really good. The support braces are beautiful thick aluminium, same as that little top plate there, same as the center plate there. The rear stay is aluminium as well. It's just aluminium everywhere. I guess this is probably the cream of the cream when it comes to Hyper 7s. It's much better than my Hyper 7 Pro R. Mine's only got the graphite shock towers, not these thick aluminium ones. And I don't have the pivot ball suspension either. So I would take this over my car any day. Let's give it a nice clean and see what it can do. So since the Hyper 7 PCR came with a AM/FM radio, I'm not happy with that. So we're going to plug in a Futaba. We've already bound it up to the 4PLS. We've got a LiFeU battery, tiny little 850 milliamp one. It's so small, it's probably even going to fit in the radio box. I probably won't even need to mount it on the side like you're supposed to, where the NIMH batteries will go. But if it doesn't fit, we can just wrap some foam around the battery and just stuff it in there. Don't even have to bother with tape. Such a good fit. Very happy with this battery. It's got both connections, balance lead, everything you need. Lasts all day. It's great. All right, let's hook it up, set the endpoints and the failsafe. The battery fits in the radio box. Let's see if we can get all this receiver and wiring in there as well. On-off switch takes up a fair bit of room. All right, absolutely perfect. Managed to get the battery and the receiver and the on-off switch all in the tiny little radio box. How good's that? Hooked it all up. Do we have left steering? No, it's all going the wrong way. Have to fix that. And do we have throttle action? Yep, but look at that idle gap. It is absolutely massive. Okay, that is Runaway City right there. So when we brake, we've got a great idle gap. So the idle gap on the carb is set correctly, but when we let go, it's obviously not. So we're going to have to work on the neutral position, which I'm going to use the sub trim. So why don't we disconnect these servo horns and line things up properly. So all we actually did was undo the servo screw for the horn and then rotate it back to vertical. And then by doing that, we've now got a tiny little idle gap, which is what we need. So probably won't even have to touch the sub trim now. Just do a quick test. So when we brake, we can see the brakes are compressing. When we accelerate, we're getting almost full carb opening. So might have to extend the end point on the radio so we get full open. And when we let go, does it return back to idle position? Seems like the idle gap is too big when we let go. When we brake, it fixes it up, but when we accelerate and let go, it's not closing properly. So we're gonna have to play with the linkages until we get this sorted. All right, so we adjusted the end point of the throttle so that we can get maximum carb opening, and we didn't need to use all the end point, so it's very important that you adjust that correctly. And the other thing we did was we put a little gap on this side so that when we first accelerate, you want no throttle action. On the first bit of movement, you don't want the carb to open at all. And why is that? Just in case there's any glitching of the throttle, you don't want the carb to open. And then when we brake, we've got great braking power. We can see the brakes still compressing. So everything's set up. Most importantly, after we accelerate, when we let go, it's going back to idle gap, perfect idle gap. That's what we want. So time to start it up, start tuning these needles. So we've set our idle up feature. So switch here will activate idle up. If I push that little switch forward, watch the carb. Bang, carb is open. Just enough to start the engine, keep the revs high. And the other thing we do is we set our failsafe. So steering does nothing on failsafe, but throttle goes to 43 brake, and I've also got the battery failsafe activated at 5.3 volt. So a fully charged Lifey battery is 6.6 volt. So if I drop to 5.3, bang, brakes come on. No more fun time. It is over. So that is a great feature. That tells me I'm going to protect my life battery and protect the car. Let's use some 25% nitro fuel. With it, probably got 10% oil, not sure. And fill up this bottle. So a couple minutes with a hairdryer, crack the plug. We're already getting some nice popping. We've got some good compression here. Let's go and start it up. So we need to prime it and then we can start it up. Need to prime it with a carbo. Alright, fuel has entered. Close the carb. Maybe turn the radio on and get the idle up feature. Okay, we'll leave the plug loose. Now we'll do the plug tight. Idle up. We've got no glow. Too much? Too much idle up? Let's bring it down a bit. And the idle up off. Turn it back on. A bit more. Let's check the plug. because it didn't register anything. The plug is half glowing and it looks terrible. Only half glowing. Alright, great news. Out of my collection of short plugs, I found the OS LC4, which is a long plug. That's pretty lucky. Alright, we got the LC4 plug, and you see these crappy glow igniters? You don't know if they're actually connected. Whereas the ones with the meter, you know if it's connected. Nothing. What's the problem? Sounds like an air leak. Maybe the low speed's too lean. Okay, Hyper 7 PCR, it's running really lean. We've got to change all the gaskets, not only in the engine, but we've got to change it in the fuel tank as well. If we look at the fuel tank O-ring, it doesn't look good. It's looking really chopped up and squarish in shape. Let's change that O-ring as well as everything in the engine. That means the backplate and the carb, wherever we see an O-ring. Let's take the engine right apart. We've got to inspect the clutch as well, because remember, we think that the clutch has got an issue and that's causing it to stall. So let's check the whole thing. Does anyone know the international number for HOBAO support? I don't know it. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just go to H in my teletext and look up HOBAO International. Oh, there's a number for HOBAO International right there. I'll call HOBAO on my vintage Nokia phone. Hello, is this HOBAO International support?
Hello?
A problem with my HOBAO. It's full of air leaks and I'd like to get some support.
Oh.
What? I can't get any support? Look, maybe you can do like a warranty exchange. We can just, I'll send you the old one, you send me a new one. Can I just buy a new engine without air leaks?
Oh.
What? I have to have air leaks? They've all got air leaks. Look, don't worry, just leave it with me. I'll work it out myself. Alright, so according to my notes, 16 by 2 by outer diameter 21 by thickness 2.4 would be good for a Hyper 7, and that's exactly what this is. 21 outer and 2.4. So let's try that and see if that fits nice. So we'll pop open the tank. What do we need? We need a normal Phillips head screwdriver to get that out. Okay, that's out, ready to give that a clean. Have a look at that. Yeah, it's not good. Look at that, big chunks missing from it. Not a good O-ring. Get the O-ring. Put that in. It's a tight fit, isn't it? Doesn't really want to go on. Now that's loose. It's making a seal, but it's not great. Let's go a bit tighter. Now we can see the O-ring is really getting pushed out a bit. Maybe too much. See? The lid doesn't close now. Even if we push it, it doesn't close. I don't want to distort the O-ring. Let's back it off a bit. Oh, that's nice. Look at that. It closes all the way by itself. That's the right tension. Let's leave it like that. Fuel tank is done. Take the top cover off. Look at that. Amazing. Not a drop of oil at all. There's dirt, but there's no oil. Wow. Alright, we want to take the head off. The screws are a little bit stuck, so we're going to heat it up with a hairdryer, warm things up a little bit, then put an old Allen key in there, tap it with a small hammer. That should break the rust. We'll loosen the Loctite. The heat will loosen the Loctite as well. Once we get that thread locker broken a little bit, we'll do some high impact hi-ya with the nice HOBAO drivers and get these screws out. So there we go. We've got the old Allen key in there. Just give it a little tap with a hammer. Just give it one tap. Flash on. Look at that. Can't do it. It's just too tight. Pretty much all I can do now, I mean, I've given it a tap. I've heated it up. It's warm. I mean, it's not hot, but it's warm. I can give it another tap with a hammer. Otherwise, probably going to have to get the 10 pegs out. Alright, put the 10 peg in there. Give it a little tap. Oh, yeah. Moment of truth, moment of truth. Oh, wow. Look at all that oil. Is that because of me? I was trying to start it and I couldn't start it for very long. And it's full of nitro fuel. I think that was me. Alright, let's remove this spring clip using the caster clip tool. It's funny, it's called the caster clip tool, but I actually only use it for springs. Actually, never once in my life have I used this to remove a caster clip. Maybe we can just remove the engine from these screws rather than going from the bottom, which are probably never going to move. And these ones are always nice and loose. That's why I love these ones. But the problem is, once you get these out, you still can't get the engine out because the back plate will hit this guy here. You can't go back, you can't go forward, you can't do anything. It's almost like you have to remove the engine from the bottom anyway. So, if we have a look here, these ones are always super tight to remove, but if you can get them out, it's great because it means you don't have to worry about resetting mesh. These ones here, a little bit of play there, hardly any play there, hardly any play there, tons of play there. That's bordering stripped. So that's going to give us some problems. So what can you do if it's giving you problems already? Maybe put it on an angle is one thing. Obviously heat it up and tap it will help as well. But if you just can tell it's going to move, get your Torx bit in there, try that if you've got a large Torx bit. Or put something else in there first, like a piece of copper, a real thin bit of copper wire, and then jam this in there. Okay, that's another option. Or get an old Allen key, put it in there with some solder and a soldering iron, melt the solder, push the Allen key down, solder will take up the gap. There's a lot of things you can do. Most people just like to get the Dremel and just cut the slot straight down and then use a flat blade screwdriver. But what I found is every time you do that, you destroy your chassis. It makes a big mark in the chassis. So let's try with a bit of heat and a bit of tapping and see if we can get these out using the candle. And now it's time to get down on our knees and pray to the Nitro gods that we don't strip any screws. Let's try that one first. Give it a bit of a tap. Well, that was good. That's cracked. Alright, we got the engine out. That's a good first move. See what I've done here? Front left, front right, rear left, rear right. Just labelled it so I know how it all goes back together. Alright, let's take off the pull start so we can get to the back plate and have a look at this engine. Put a piece of metal in there. We got it. There you go. That's as much as you can take the carb apart. You can't take it apart any more than that. Time to wash. Right, alright. How's it gonna look? Why isn't this coming off? Do I have to go bottom dead center? Bottom. On, off, on, off, on, off. Why won't you come? I got an idea. Let's remove the carb. Then we'll remove the clutch and flywheel since we've got to inspect that anyway. Then we can slide the motor mounts off and that'll make it easier to get the back plate off. Let's do that. Well, you can take the carb apart more than that. You can take out the mid-range. And look at this mid-range. It's not flush. It's screwed right in. That would be a very lean mid-range. Okay, you got the mid-range that lean, that's going to really affect your low end as well. Let's take it right out so we can clean everything up nicely, and when we put it back in, we'll make sure that we set it flush. Alright, so we'll just let all this carb parts here to dry. We are ready to start taking off the clutch pearl so that we can get these engine mounts off. Just heat up the block with a hairdryer and then use the rag to carefully pry the back plate off. How's it going to look? It's really hot. Just do it quick. Oh, it's got the HOBAO one-way bearing in there. We're going to have to get that out next. So we've got the piston at top dead center, which is good for removing the back plate. Come on, man, come out. Okay, so the turbo fan looks okay. And the one-way bearing looks okay. What about the crankshaft? Yeah, that's all right. That is all right. Everything is good inside. Giving the inner air filter a bit of a clean in the soapy water. While the soapy water is clean, nothing else has been washed in here first. So we do the inner one first. I mean, there's absolutely no oil in here at all. Can't believe it. And then we'll clean this dirty outer foam. See if we can get that clean. this air filter tube a bit of a clean as well. Alright, what are you doing, Joe?
Cleaning.
And what are you washing today? Is that a tuned pipe?
Yes.
Are you making it nice and clean?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Is it dirty?
Yes.
And what are you using to clean it?
A big brush.
Oh yeah. Do you like the big brush or do you like the small brushes?
Big brush and the small brushes.
Okay. Are you a little bit sick today?
Yes.
Sorry to hear that. Hope you feel better tomorrow.
Okay.
Alright, time to take this clutch off. And to do that, since we've got no head, we can't use the piston stopper. So our only option is to grab the flywheel now with a wrench, or we can jam a paddle pop stick in the back and stop the connecting rod from moving. So let's grab a driver, get that in there. I'll go with the wrench, that's the safest option. We'll wrap something around the flywheel so that we don't damage it. Do we have a clutch issue? Is the clutch sticking out? No, it's not. So why was the engine stalling? Was it because my idle was set to 0 to compensate for the air leaks? I think that's probably what it was. But this looks fantastic. I don't think there's anything wrong here. How to remove your 3-shoe flywheel from your Nitro engine? Just use your fake Huddy flywheel puller. And that's how you do it, straight off. Alright, we're going to wash the Hyper21 engine using kerosene. Oh, total disaster. I bumped the engine in the wrong way and spring came out of the pull start, which is a shame because this spring is screwed right in. These are one of the hardest pull starts to put back together. Damn.
Yes, we're playing How Good 13353 if you want to get involved. How good would it be going out?
But we got it back in position. We can let the spring go. Let it go. We're going to push the spring to get it to try and line up. There you go. Oh, just push it in. I think it's in. Does it work? Pull it back. Pull it back. Test it. Should we make it tighter? Or is that fine? A little bit loose, isn't it? Let's make it tighter. Go all the way around, one lap. Down. Let it go. Oh yeah, now it's tight. Now it's nice and tight. That's where you want it. So we fixed it. Okay, lesson learnt. Don't muck around with pull starts. Put the little cover back on. Alright, let's put these head shims on. Just give them a quick measure first. So it should be 0.4 in total. There we go, it's 0.4. Yeah, typical, doesn't want to fit on. That's usual. I've got to trim this one up a little bit with a high-speed rotary tool. Clean off the dust. See if that fits now. Still too tight. Trim it a bit more. Let's put the head back on now that we've got the shims. Alright, we've got the OS LC4. That's a long plug. Right, pull start is back on. Now we've got the engine mounts on. Just test the compression. Whoa! Amazing compression. Time to put this engine back into the chassis. We'll do the screws from underneath now. Now you'll notice that I put some O-rings underneath the little screws that hold the fuel tank in. I don't know, I see other people doing it, so I do it too. And I've put a bit of foam here between the muffler and the fuel tank, because what breaks fuel tanks? It is mufflers and steering posts. Anything that can smash the fuel tank will break the fuel tank. Always protect your fuel tank. They are not cheap. Air filter oil. Alright, the engine's got some really nasty air leaks. We pulled it apart and we serviced it, and that did not fix it. So we've lowered the idle gap even more, we've richened the low speed even more. Let's take the carb apart again another time and have a look if there's more O-rings that we need to change, such as the needles and also the carb neck. Now the mid-range jet, mixture metering jet, we call it a jet because there's a hole there, it's not actually a needle, is it? That's got a very small O-ring that doesn't need to make a perfect seal, because if fuel escapes here, it's just ending up in the same spot that the fuel is going through the middle anyway. But we do want an O-ring there, that way the fuel travels through the holes and the space in the chamber would change depending on how far in and out this is. So if the fuel could get in there, then you've effectively just got a high and a low. If the fuel goes past here, your mid-range is not really doing very much. So that's the importance of that one. Obviously this one is to stop the fuel escaping or air getting in, but obviously this would be the more critical O-ring. We came to the hobby shop and bought this gasket kit. Today I purchased a new gasket kit for a Hyper21 engine. So let's compare what the gaskets actually are in terms of dimensions compared to what I thought they were when I removed the bad ones. The most interesting thing to note is that they don't tell you which one goes where. You have to work it out yourself. And what kind of gasket kit doesn't even come with the thick fuel tank gasket? You know, that would have been the most important one they should have given you in this kit. Nah, they want you to buy a bloody whole new brand new fuel tank. Alright, well the results are really surprising. None of the measurements that we actually found on the included factory O-ring kit matched what we measured from the old O-rings that we took off, which means that my calculations are terrible if these are correct. So now we've got to try and work out which ones use the different thicknesses, because they're all they're all 2mm internal diameter, but the thickness of the O-ring determines where it goes. So we've just worked out the size of each O-ring for a Hyper21 engine. Let's put the O-rings on the pinch bolt. Get the two pinch bolts. I'm going to put the threaded side away from me. Get the 2mm and do it up. Put the head on. Too rich. Alright, so here's what we noticed. The more we lean out the high-speed needle, the better pickup and top speed we were getting. So this still needs to be leaned out some more. So we'll just give it some real small turns now because I think we're getting close. Now, finding the air leak on this Hyper21 engine was a huge pain in the ass. It took me so long to find the air leak, I'm probably just going to have to do a second video on it, on finding air leaks on a Hyper21. Alright, now these two screws here, they're completely stripped. They just turn and turn forever. We're going to put a little bit of fishing line in there to help it bite. You see, I've just put 4 pieces of fishing line in there. Let's see if that bites. Yep, that's worked. The screw comes to a stop. I can't turn it anymore. We have saved the strip with 4 small pieces of fishing line. Okay, I just took the back plate off and it's so dirty and the O-ring just crumbled. And the fact that that just disintegrated tells me it's in poor condition. This is the only gasket we haven't swapped. We have literally swapped every single other gasket in the carburetor. We've put new shims in the head, in the button, and we've even changed the gasket O-ring in the fuel tank. So all that leaves is the O-ring in the backplate. Let's put a brand new one on and see if that fixes the problem. Now this is interesting. There's 2 large O-rings here. 1, 2. And that's probably that one there. 22 by 24 by 1. And I've even marked it here. Backplate O-ring 22, 24, 1. I guessed it before I bought the kit, 22, 24, 1. And then when I got the kit, I wrote down all the included O-rings. So it says, it comes with 2. You use 1. So there's 1 spare, 22, 24, 1. Seems like I haven't put it on. And that's probably why we've still got the air leak. Let's take it out and measure it up. Just going to put a bit more oil on this O-ring because I don't want to compromise it while I'm doing it up. So the oil will just help avoid friction while we're putting pressure on here. Yeah, that's nice and slippery now. So what I don't like about this design is that as soon as you put it on, you can see the O-ring sticking through into where the threads are. The O-ring it's too big. I mean, that is not nice. You don't want to cut your O-ring before you've even started. So what I'm thinking is, why don't we put the screws in first, okay, and then push the back plate on. That way we don't cut the O-ring before we even start. So you can see the O-ring is there. It's not compressed yet. And I mean, is that the reason that the O-ring failed? Because of the bad design? Does the O-ring get cut as you do up these screws? Okay, we're going to do a crisscross pattern. Not overly tight. Quite loose actually. Well, great job. We found the missing hidden air leaks. We sent them back to the border. It's time to get this engine back in the car. I just decided to get some brand new fuel line. The original fuel line was really short. It was just going straight from there to there. Hyper 7. It's got a fueling issue, but when it warms up and clears out, it goes hard. Oh, Can. Attack can. Oh, second gear. Two-speed, promotion, second gear. Second gear. I think it's got a diff problem as well, because it spun out. There should be no reason for it to spin out like that.